Hello everybody and welcome back to MTDCNC's live show. Now we are going live at 11:30 and we're going to talk technical, but where are we? The Matsura stand. I mean, look, just look around, it's super busy.
We are, fantastic. I'm still convalescing and recovering from Arsenal's loss last night, a bit of a bad night. Not really the highlight of my week, but looking forward to recovering by talking about this technology, as you say, starting at 11:30.
We are. Now, this is totally interactive. Every single stream that we've done so far, I've said, these shows are all about getting you as close to the technology as we are. And this is how close we are going to get. We're going to be talking technical, but what are we going to be talking about, Paul?
I think what you've got to understand with Matsura is they've been supplying automated solutions for many, many decades, really. And I think what you'll see today is technology that on show here, pretty much often like no other when it comes to efficiencies, keeping those spindles turning, you know, productivity. We're looking at the MX420, we're looking at the new MAM 7252V, and that's obviously milling, 5-axis milling, but we'll also be looking at the Muratec machine, which is a twin spindle turning centre. We're going to be looking at additive manufacturing as well, desktop metal printing, so there's lots to see.
There's that HP, on one of those HP printers, there's a part that was made at manufacture. I've got to tell you this, and this was a part that could never have actually been made before. They've got it over there, they're using it as a case study, but there was a part, it could never have been made before, it wasn't actually possible, and they're making it, and the turnaround time is something like 7 days, so like there's so much to shout out about.
There is, and some of the 3D printing we're looking at today is metal printing, which is, you know, for Matsura, they're obviously into subtractive manufacturing with their cutting, but they can now provide additive as well, which, to be fair, they have been able to do for some time. Just a few facts about Matsura as a company. Founded back in 1935, would you believe? And in 1957 was the first milling machines that they made. 1981 was their venture into high-speed VMCs. They went into then the horizontal market in 1983. Now their first MAM 5-axis machine, obviously older than this one. When do you think it was first brought to market? The MAM. Just thinking how advanced this machine is now.
Well, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. If we're going later in time, a 2000 and something.
No, so it was 1991. So all the way back in 1991, 30 years ago, they were doing this.
You know what? I think, just from what you've said, would you say that they're like pioneers of the unmanned run or something like that along those lines? Because it's constantly, everything about Matsura is based around automation.
Yeah, you've got to look at, I think that I mean, this business has grown phenomenally here in the UK over recent years. Unmanned running is something that everyone wants to be able to do, because if you're running when the lights are out, the machine is making you money. So, you know, that's what Matsura do. You know, with the issues that we have with labour shortages, with the fact that the market is so competitive, you need to make parts as cost effectively as you can. So you need to keep the spindle turning, but it's not just about doing that, which we'll find out today when we speak to Dominic Seminario and Mark Cumberland. You know, it's about how you can achieve this unmanned run, lights out, but cost effectively.
Look, in an ideal world, everyone could make it to MACH, but if you can't, obviously you're watching this, please get your questions in. You know, you're going to be talking to Dominic, so why not halfway through send in a message that we've got all the technology so the team can talk to us, tell us that message, tell us that question, and we can ask the team themselves live on the stream. It's brilliant.
Yeah. And are you a Matsura user? We want to hear from you if you are. And if you can't get here this week. But talking about Matsura users, I think...
Yeah, Peter Ames, Absolutely Precision. He's the man. I visited this gentleman not even that long ago, was it? We visited you.
A few months ago.
Peter, can you tell everybody about your company?
Okay, so I'm Peter Ames, the MD of Absolutely Precision Engineering in Salisbury. We're a subcontract machine company.
And you have got a machine, a Matsura machine. Tell everybody about it and really what it's done for your company.
Okay, so we bought a MAM 7235V, which is 32 pallets, slightly smaller table than the one that they're showing here, but it's been a real change to our business. It's completely revolutionised what we can do.
And why is it revolutionised? I know that I actually remember the videos. Yes. I do remember our videos. It's something like over 90% spindle uptime or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've had really good productivity off the machine. It runs 24/7. I mean, we're a subcontract engineering shop, so you don't always have jobs to run on there all the time, but when they run without any input from any operator. The sizes are perfect. The the whole thing about the machine is brilliant. It just keeps going and going.
And so if anyone was thinking about, right, okay, you know, I'm looking to stretch over to that area, you know, it's quite a leap of faith. What would you say to them? Because you made that leap yourself.
Yeah, we did. I mean, you know, they're not inexpensive machines, but you pay for quality, really. I mean, I sat down and did the sums. I think most engineers are good at doing the numbers. So we had a look at that, and we sat down and we said, well, it's an expensive machine, but if we can keep it running, it will pay for itself, and it's paid for itself already. So,
I mean, brilliant.
That's the best I've made.
But Peter, what are the considerations when you're looking at unmanned running? What things do you have to think about?
You have to think about, I guess, a decent CAD system to help you program it. You've got to think about the tooling in the back of the machine. This has got masses of tooling available, so you want to make sure that you've got enough tools in there to allow you to be running all the time. Make sure that your staff have the right training to go with it. You can't stick someone on there straight away and expect them to run with it, but it doesn't take long to get up and running, and when you know what you're doing, it really pays dividends because it takes all those other ops out.
Are there any surprises that have jumped out at you since you had the machines? Anything that it's done that you didn't think it could do? Or
well, if I'm honest, the accuracy. I mean, you know, normally you've got to change offsets throughout the day. There's no offset changing on here. It just, you know, you set the size and it keeps running.
Regardless of what material you're cutting?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we do a lot of aluminium, so we're quite fortunate in that respect. But we do stainless steels, we do Hastelloy. I mean, it's pretty tough. And we hold H7 tolerances on here, circular interpolation all day long.
And would you, if you were loading these pallets up, would you put different parts, different materials on different pallets? And if so, how do you control that in an unmanned environment?
So we do that, and what we would probably do is if we knew we were continuously running stainless and aluminium, we'd perhaps have tools that are dedicated to those materials so you can set your life on them and make sure that you're not going to mix and match and have an issue part way through. But, I mean, to be fair, it will run anything all day long. We have 32 pallets, sometimes we have 32 different jobs running on there. So,
is there any expensive consumable costs that people have to think about when they buy a machine like this too?
If I'm honest, I use a bit more coolant than I do on the other machines, but that's because it's working hard. I mean, coolant's relatively cheap compared to the amount of productivity you get out of the machine. But the life of the tools is much better than it is on our normal machines.
And as a business owner, sorry to keep firing questions at you,
yeah.
has it made your life
he's doing
much
well,
better?
I must admit, he's doing well. So I
has it made your
going.
life easier as a let's say an operator, hands-on managing director, whatever the term may be?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's got a very good system telling you how many hours of uptime it will have. So when you fully load it up, you can see when it's going to stop. You know, on a weekend, that's great because I know that I perhaps need to pop in for an hour on 11 o'clock on a Saturday and reload it, and then I'm back with the family again, or get one of my guys to come in and do that. But actually, I mean, from a day-to-day productivity, you can plan all your work really well, and you know when it goes on there that you don't have to have someone stood in front of it who might have to have a cigarette break or a tea break or go for lunch, and then the machine will stop. And it doesn't happen with this. You can carry on programming it while it's running.
And he's got a lovely lady who works on the machine as well.
Yeah, Donna's brilliant. Yeah.
Doesn't have time off sick, anything
No,
like that?
no, exactly. It just keeps going.
Don't have to pay a pension, all of those things.
I know. Machines are replacing humans, eh?
No, I shouldn't say that. But yeah, brilliant, Peter. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Peter. Absolute precision. I'm sure we'll be back again soon. Thank you, Peter.
Okay, thanks very much, guys. Have a good
Peter.
show.
Thanks, Peter. There you've heard it from the user themselves, but shortly we'll be talking to Dominic Seminario about the MAM machine and the MX420, the Muratec with Mark Cumberland, and we'll be talking to Peter Harris about desktop metal and Joe Bellis about HP 3D printing, all coming up at what time?
In 20 minutes' time, 11:30. We'll see you there. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to MTDCNC's live show. Guess where we are? We're on the Matsura stand, and I am with the star of the show here, Dominic. I'm winding him up. No, Dominic, thank you for having us on the stand.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for coming to see us.
Yeah, and it's a very busy stand already. Well, normally, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the busiest days.
Yeah, they are. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I mean, obviously Wednesday will probably be the worst. Busiest day, should I say not the worst, but the busiest day. But I thought it wouldn't be busy today, which is why we went for Tuesday, but it's been absolutely mad already since about 9:30 this morning.
And Dominic, why do you think it has been so busy? What do you see as a trend in the industry that is kind of fitting quite nicely with Matsura's product?
Well, I think, a lot of people are after automation, lights out machining, which is what we've been doing for a few years, as you well know, and you've been advertising for us. And it's just, I think it's like a perfect storm with everything that's going on in the world right now, and Brexit, onshoring, and just generally it's busy. And I think people are looking at the automation, more and more today. That's where we're at.
Well, absolutely. So what is it? So if someone comes onto your stand, what is it they're going to see, and why have you chosen these particular machines?
Okay, so the MAM 7252V, which is behind us, is the larger version of our MAM 7235V, which we've been selling for 30 years. So we now have a big brother to a very successful machine, and we only launched it a few months ago, but it's its national launch today, well, yesterday and today. And yeah, come and have a look at a bigger 35V, really, which is now the 52V.
Has it been popular?
We've sold quite a few already. The interest in the last couple of days has been good. Our existing MAM 72 users have welcomed it to the portfolio, which has been great, and new business as well.
And so you're also going to be talking to Paul very shortly. So we are actually going to take you on a stand tour. We're going to talk quite in depth about the technology. As every single live stream, I've said we want to get you as close to the technology as we are. Look, you might still be visiting this week, and this is a little bit of a teaser and a taster, but please get those messages in if maybe you're not visiting and you've got some questions for Dominic. The 420 as well, you're going to be talking to Paul about.
Yeah, so the 420 is now a larger version of our MX330 PC10, which you've done many case studies on around the UK. And it's just, again, a slightly larger version of that same machine.
And then also you want to tell everyone about the turning, because you're so strong. I actually said earlier, are you Matsuura? I actually questioned Paul and said, are they pioneers, I guess, of the unmanned run? I guess that's a big compliment, but historically he was giving us dates on when you started Matsuura to where you are now. But you're kind of saying we turn as well, and not enough people know about.
No, so again, we've been selling the Muratec machines for the best part of 15 years. We don't really shout from the rooftops, but we have made a decision to now promote it more. Obviously, with a lot of onshoring of volume turning work that's coming back to the UK, a lot of people are looking at twin spindle, twin turret, three turret, and what we do with the Muratec, which is standard, is gantry load. So feed out automation on a turning centre. And
I went to LMS Precision Roger, and he's got one of those machines. I could literally just list all of the case studies, and I think that's a really good thing for you at Matsuura, because we're doing so many case studies of proven people who have bought these machines, they love them, and they're like, get me on camera.
Absolutely, and we welcome the fact that you do that for us, and there isn't a better testimonial than the actual customer on film on their factory floor. So yeah, it's great.
I think Dominic should be a presenter, because he pulls out some of my lines as well. Right, Dominic, I'm going to, just to finish off as well, 3D printing and metal as well. Yes. So we talk about subtractive, but this is very different.
Yeah, so obviously we were launching for the first time our desktop metal product. So we have 2 machines on the stand which are printing metal and fibre.
And who are you trying to attract here?
Well, I think the 3D additive manufacturing world is massive anyway, but obviously what we want to try and do is obviously make our CNC subtractive customer base aware that we're also now doing additive in 3D printing.
Brilliant. Right, okay, I'm going to send you off actually, Dominic, to go and speak to Paul, because you're going to be talking technical on the 420. Have fun.
Okay, so before Dominic joins me, just a couple of comments. Tristan Bailey, see you on the next slot if I don't get lost on the floor. Gareth Jones on YouTube gives a thumbs up. We've also got Carlos Tiber Rivers says hi, very nice machines. Silver CNC, a heart emoji. Tim Hacking, great to see Dominic Seminario, and without the giggles. So, Dominic, come and join me. Lovely to see you.
Hello, Paul. Nice to see you again, mate. You're right.
Very good, thank you. Okay, so during our piece here in this stream, we're going to be looking at the 2 machines. The MX420 is the one, and the MAM 7250 2V. Now, I've got to say, I've had to stop people. There's people actually here that want to get to this machine. We're not encroaching on your sales, are we, hopefully? Why was the MX420 introduced, Dom, and what is this machine? Can you explain?
So the MX420 PC10, it's only available as a 10 pallet machine, is now the larger version of our MX330 PC10 that you've obviously done a lot of coverage over the last few years for us. So it was introduced because the actual capacity of the 330 is 420 internally. So by a very simple modification to the pallet changer, we now have 420 diameter by 300 high, giving our customers a little bit more capacity for the same footprint of machine.
Okay, now we've seen so many of the 330s go in and around. Why have people bought them, Dom? What's been the reason that they've bought them? What have they done for their businesses? I mean, we spoke to Peter Apsley earlier. I know he's got a MAM, but it's of a similar vein, isn't it, what these machines deliver?
Well, it is. I mean, if we go right back to why we wanted a 10 pallet 5-axis machine, many people that use the 32 pallet 35V have always said it's more about getting the overnight run, especially the smaller subcontract companies, so they can set the machine up during the day and get the production at night. 10 pallets, 90 tools gives them that. So to design that machine on the MAM 7235V platform, it uses the same technology, the same pallet, etc., but at 2/3 of price. That was always the key. It was the affordability to the I'll rephrase that, to the smaller SME company, that a 300 and something £1,000 price tag versus a 500 and something price tag obviously is more affordable.
But what tends to happen, and let's walk this way so we can have a look at the pallet system, is they tend to buy one and then they go on and buy another. I mean, in Enzo from R&G, for example, had one 2 or 3 months later, we're invited back because he has another one. What are they actually doing for their companies? How are they able to get that return on investment so they can go on and buy more?
Well, so what they've realised is that because the capacity of the machine is quite large, you can multi-load very small, intricate components, even with a small cycle time. If you multi-load and say you get to an hour, 2 hours on a pallet, with 10 pallets you're at 10 or 20 hours on man running. That return with nobody there. So when you think about the footprint and what it's returning per hour, hence versus the investment they're paying per month on the HP, they're making a lot of money. And that's why very quickly they go second, third, and in some cases fourth within less than a year.
Now the UK, you've done phenomenally well in recent years. I believe you're kind of on the steering committee as well, aren't you, as to the machines that are developed. Is that part of your successes, because you know what the market needs and you just go and create it?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that I'll go as far back to say Masanori Matsura, the father of our current president. He said you need to listen to the voice of the customer. If the customer tells you what they want, if you make that, they'll buy it.
Very, very simple and straightforward. Let's have a look at some of the pallets on here and the work holding. I think as an example, Dom, what you're saying, if you step this way a little bit, is something like here where we're presenting a multitude of parts to the spindle, aren't we? So you can get more. We talk 10 pallets, but really you could have 50, 60, 100 parts.
Well, look, I'm going to give Enzo a little bit of credit here. So we've actually got 2 fixtures from R&G. Now, if you take that fixture to the left, there's 8 little clamping jaws on a fixture that he's made.
Okay, so I'll just point this one out. That one.
Right, so when you look, it's a small cycle time on that component. He's normally do them in a vise, but he's now put 8 or sometimes 10 components on a 5-axis fixture. Straight away you get hours. The key to a successful automated machine tool is hours on pallets.
Okay, now the yellow billet here, this quite obvious really, but just for people that don't know what it's illustrating.
So what we show in there, and we do that on many of our machines, is the maximum working capacity of this actual machine. So when you walk up to this machine, you see this small pallet, it's 130 diameter, but its actual capacity is 420 by 300 high, as a cylindrical working 5-axis machinable capacity. It's quite large for a small machine.
And it's not just the 420, because you've got the 330, the 420 and the 5 series as well, haven't you? So what would determine which of those models that you select? Because the 520 is a PC4, isn't it? So slightly less pallets.
Correct. So the 520 PC4 obviously was sort of spawned from the 10 pallet success of the 330, and then we do the 850 as a PC4. But obviously the next machine that we're going to talk about is the 52V 15 pallet, which is basically a 15 pallet version of our MX520 on a MAN platform.
Okay, and I also want to look at the challenges. It's important. I mean, if you're going to embark on buying a machine like this, there must be some things you really need to consider. And in fact, we asked Peter this as well, because running unmanned isn't just about putting billets on and pressing the button and going home. There's lots of other factors that you need to take into account, aren't there? So what are some of these challenges that people may face that you help them overcome?
Well, the biggest one is obviously swath management, coolant control, knowing how many hours the machine is going to run when you leave. We sell obviously the RIM software, which is our remote intelligent machine monitoring, that gives the customer the visibility on tool life, hours that you've set. And more importantly, you know, if you're going into automation on 5-axis, you need to make sure that your production engineering or your manufacturing engineering is up to scratch before you embark on an investment such as an MX or a MAM 72.
Okay, right, what we're going to do is we're going to walk over, Dom, to the mount. I know the stand has been busy. Have you had a good show thus far? I know we're only on Tuesday, but plenty of activity, plenty of inquiries.
So, you know, the Monday is always the slowest day of any show. Yesterday we didn't have volume, but we had quality, and it was a nice flow. And overall, myself and the guys got some new inquiries, which is great. Today it's just gone mad. I mean, it's definitely like you're back at a show, aren't you? It's gone electric. So.
It is exciting times at the moment. Right, okay. Now, I said to Lindsay when we opened the show that the MAM, one of the first machines, was developed, I think, in 1991. So you've been doing this for 3 decades. Is that part of your, well, what we class as being the pioneers of automation? Is that how you get, and manage to create the quality that you keep putting onto the market?
I think to be called a pioneer is a nice, obviously, compliment, Paul, so thank you for that, whether we are pioneers or not. I think Matsura, if we go right back to the MAM 72, Matsuura Advanced Manufacturing, 72 hours unmanned, which was the weekend, you know, that came out in 91. The market wasn't ready for that technology. So it was interesting because the MAM 72 grew into the market. Now, if you look at where we are today, everyone talks about automation. So every single machine that we sell has an element of pallets and tools, and we've been promoting that through you for many, many years. The MAM 7252V was needed in our portfolio because we had a 42V, but it was a very cumbersome from a point of view of number of pallets, and we wanted to refine that and make it more a package. So the MAM 72 35V 32 pallets is a standard machine. MAM 72 now 52V PC15 is a standard machine that we buy for stock, so availability is always quite quick. Footprint is not much bigger than a 35V, and price isn't much more either.
Small companies, though, you know, maybe that don't, well, they look at this and think this is a real leap too far for them. That would be wrong, though, wouldn't it? Because you could just put lots of different high-value parts on here and keep the machine running unmanned, couldn't you? So it doesn't have to be the same part. It can be lots of different components, complex parts, and the machine will just keep going.
Absolutely. I think the biggest key to any success of an automated machine is not volume, it's more small batch, large variety, because the biggest cost in any subcontract company is the time it takes to set a machine up from scratch. So if you've got a single table machine that you're clearing the table, taking the tools out, reloading the program, that is dead time. That's time that the customer can never get back. Whereas if you load a pallet system with the fixture left on the pallet, tools left in the machine, programs left in the machine, you've now created a vending machine. So when you want one, you make one. When you want 10, you make 10. If you want 1,000, make 1,000. The beauty is that the operating equipment efficiency, the OEE, on our machines, if you get it right, if you prime the system right, you're in the 90%.
What does that mean for those that don't know? We talk about OEE, 90+%. What does that actually mean?
So if you're running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're running 20 odd hours a day, every day of the week, every day of the month. 24 hours. I mean, at the end of the day, you need to prime the system. But if you've got the variety, the mix of work that you have got on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, bi-monthly call off with your customer, you never have to set it up again. You just call them off.
And do you think there's companies that have lots of vertical machining centres that could replace maybe 5 or 6 of those machines with one of these and get the same, if not better, output?
Well, absolutely. It's more efficient because if you think of the return, yes, you've got to pay the cost per month, but you're not paying wages. If you've got a single spindle machine, there's a lot of companies today still in the market that have one man, one machine, one shift. Well, in that one man, one day, one shift, they're only probably running anywhere between 2 and 4 hours a day if they're setting up and stripping down.
So are you putting these machines into companies that are basically 1 or 2 man bands that people would look at and go, they would never have a man machine, but actually they have, and it's transformed their company?
Well, I think that the beauty of is that we can obviously sell up to a man, but the MX range has basically given us that platform, because the MX, being that slightly lesser costing cost per month, has enabled us to go to these smaller companies that are no more than 5 or 10 people. They invite us in, they talk to us, they give us their challenges, we put a case forward, and we have, in some instances, gone in on an MX and sold them a 35V.
Okay, let's walk round this way because I want to walk round to the front of the machine or where the pallets are. This, once again, then I suppose, Dom, is just illustrating the size and weight of a part that you could have on the machine. Yeah,
so again, we're showing it here. So you've got obviously 520 diameter by 400 high, workpiece capacity, times 15.
Okay, and we've got how many pallets on here?
15.
15 pallets. Wow. Okay, and then if we move around the back, to be able to run unmanned, we talk about tooling. This is expandable. You can have an option on this tool changer to have more tools if you need. And how many would you recommend on a machine like this?
So we always bring the machines in with 130 tools on an expandable base of 330 tools. That allows you to obviously get the investment in and start tooling the machine up. We stock these additional racks at Colville, and they are literally, a plug and play. So, you're talking half a day, and you can have another strip of 40 tools, and you just keep going from there. If obviously a customer wants to spec the whole magazine of 330 tools from day one, we'll put all the clips in and it's done. But it's a lot of money to maybe do it from day one, start with 130 tools and expand up to 330 as you fill the magazine up and obviously the pallet pool.
What's your message this week, Dom, for people to come here to see you at MACH 2022?
I think come and see what is truly available and more importantly what is actually truly affordable from Matsura. We've always had this cliche that we're too expensive and we're not affordable. When you actually do the maths and you do the numbers, we're a lot more affordable than you really think.
Good stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for your time, Dominic Seminario. Coming up later in the stream, I'll be talking about additive manufacturing with desktop metal products and also HP 3D printed. But in the meantime, I'm going to hand over to Joe, who's going to be talking about a twin spindle turning centre, the Muratec.
So yeah, I'm here with two gents from LMS Precision, and you're the perfect candidates for today's live. You've got Matsuras and you've got Muratecs. What do you think of the Matsuras?
Well, they're just fantastic, aren't they? That's just why we went for the Muratecs as well. We've never dealt with a better company than Matsura, so if we get the backup and service for the Matsuras, we'll get the same with the Muratecs.
Couldn't put it better myself. Scott, you're the partner at LMS. Yep. You run these babies, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, they're great. Absolutely great. Yeah, so far so good.
How easy are they to program? There's a lot going on in that machine.
Yeah, they are easy, to be fair. Just if you can program a couple of spindles, it's got 3 programs, but the third one really is just for the pickup. So yeah, it's great.
Thanks, guys. Sorry to pounce on you like that. Appreciate your time. And now we're going to speak to Mark, and we're going to be talking about the MT100. It's a beast of a machine, isn't it?
Morning, Joe. Yes, it is. Oh, yeah, we love it. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So just briefly, tell us about the machine. The first thing I noticed, 9 tonne. It's a tiny footprint, but 9 tonne.
It is, yeah. I mean, obviously, it's a substantial machine for sure. Some of the the design characteristics that go into the machine tool, obviously, the fact that it's got a box guideway in the y-axis, it is a true 90-degree y-axis, but also the fact, you've got the mass behind the stability of the spindles as well. So, the mass helps give you better parts.
Yeah, you need about the thermal stability. Obviously, these are producing some very accurate parts, aren't they? So, how are we getting the thermal stability?
They have thermal compensation as standard built into them. There's a number of sensors throughout all of the axis slides and both spindles, just designed to obviously try and control temperature growth into the machine as best we can.
If we look in the machine, we can see twin spindle, twin turret. Tell us a little bit about the turret.
So on the MT100, we have 2 15-station turrets, all driven, plus minus 30 mil on the y-axis stroke. The benefit of having a 15-station turret is that we have quite a large diameter turret, so we can get 2 adjacent centerline working tools to the centerline without any interference on the next tool against the chucking.
And obviously we've got driven tools, we've got y-axes, Tell us how powerful is it? Because we've just spoke to LMS Precision, they do some tricky materials.
They do, yeah. The Murata is quite powerful for a driven tool lathe for sure. The MT200, which is the next one up from this, we have 14.5 kilowatts available on the driven tool, which is substantially higher than a lot of its competitors out there.
And if 2 turrets isn't enough?
You can have 3, yeah, again all driven, y-axis on all 3 turrets. But in addition to that, 3 turrets are very much geared towards the type of production you're doing. Yeah, not everyone's going to go for a 3-turret machine, but they'll probably go for a 2-turret machine. The benefit of the Murata as well is the fact that, as we see it here today, we have the unloader, You could have a gantry, you could have a twin gantry. It's also possible to have the machine with a gantry and a bar loader, so you get the best of both worlds, really.
What I like about this machine, pretty much all the people in this building sell lathes with automation.
Yep.
But this is almost, if you don't want automation, it becomes a non-standard product. It comes as standard.
It does, yeah, and that's the reason why Matsura have been supporting and selling Murata for the past, I think it's about 14 years now. Matsura's philosophy is all about unmanned running. It always has been for the last 30 plus years. So for us to partner with a lathe manufacturer that offers the same idea, same design ethos, is very good for us, very strong for us as a brand selling in the UK. And as you say, if you want a machine without the gantry, then it becomes a special, really. But the most popular spec is as we see it here. So it's twin turret, twin spindle, the unloader. The benefit of the unloader on this machine is, with this latest design, we can unload a component which is the length between the two spindles.
I think that's really important. If we look at this machine, it's basically the largest component. It's it's width of that door, essentially, isn't it?
It is, yes. You can, if we were to open the door, the gap in the top of it is the complete door.
So 600 mil-ish.
Exactly, yeah. And on the bigger machine, the 200, we can get up to 700 mil as well.
And that's fairly unique, isn't it? Because obviously a lot of these machines, we all know what parts catches are and how they look.
Yeah.
But not many parts eject in a 600 mil part.
No, that's right. I mean, most of the competitors, the parts catchers are based around the maximum bar size that you can get through the spindle, and the maximum part length might be 140, 200 tops. But on this machine, as I said, if you're doing some shaft work, some longer components, on here, 600 mil, 5 kilos, and I think it's 8 kilos on the bigger machine, and nearly 700 mil long.
Now, if we just step back, I want the cameraman to see the footprint of this machine. It's people are going to be surprised at the capacity, aren't they? For such a small machine, the actual capacity, it's stunning.
That's, for sure, yes. And bear in mind, both spindles are identical. Yeah, they're both the same specification, both the same diameter through the spindle. It's only when you go for the 65 mil on this machine, on the main spindle, that you then go up a side in its spindle nose to an A26, but the sub spindle still remains the same.
And for users, people that don't know of Muratec, tell us about the CNC control.
Again, it's Murata put quite a lot of their own ideas and technology into it. It's a FANUC 31i control. It's a 3 series control. But one of the benefits really is if an operator is running the machine and they need to interrupt the process, the machine will record where it is. It'll remember where it is. So if you were to take a part out of the sub spindle, let's say to inspect it, and you hadn't finished on the main spindle, it wouldn't continue with the sub spindle work. It would wait until it's completed the main spindle before it would then go back to its process of doing whatever it's doing on the sub spindle. It just makes it very safe for the operators if they need to stop the machine, get into the machine, do something, change something. The machine will remember where it is, press start, and it will carry on.
And we can see here, this is the MT100. But what else is in the range? If this isn't big enough for you.
Right, okay, so this is the MT is the inline spindle range, so there's 100 and 200 size. Away from that, we then go to the parallel spindle machines, which are on a different level completely, and they can start with some very small work, sub 50 mil diameter with a platen type, 2 parallel spindles next to each other, twin gantries. Our fastest gantry load-unload time is 5 seconds on a Murata. And the biggest size we go up to is a 400 diameter parallel spindle machine, and at that point you're 170 kilos being loaded through the machine as well.
Incredible. And my final point on this, traditionally we saw these in large blue chip manufacturers, automotive in particular, with high volumes. I'm seeing these in job and shops, in SMEs, where volumes aren't as great as they used to be. Is that a trend you're seeing?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's following the same idea as Matsura. It's about having short, small batches, but lots of variety and quick changeovers. I mean, obviously you were talking to Roger from LMS earlier. He's a good advocate of our machine tools. He has 2 of them, very successful, but lots of variety that he's producing.
Okay, thank you very much. So if you want more information on the Muratec MT100, I suggest you get to the show, and if you can't, speak to Matsura. But Paul's going to be talking additive manufacturing now.
Wow, 3D printing. Peter, can you tell the audience about yourself and what your role is here at Matsura before we dig into the actual detail of the machine?
Yeah, well, I'm Peter Harris. I'm the additive manufacturing manager. So I'm running all of the day-to-day activities for all of our printers and all the products that we're showing.
Okay, now we're going to be talking to Joe Bellis as well about HP 3D printing, but this is about desktop metal. Now, is this fairly new to Matsura, and what does it add to your portfolio?
Yes, it's new. They came to us late last year, I think very much on the success of HP, on the way we approach and use the technology. But I think for us, it's kind of going back to our home, and I think as much as we've had a really good success with HP, and we will carry on doing that, metal is kind of where our customers are at, and I think for us it's going to be a great fit.
Okay, what we're doing in here, this really excites me, this technology, because we're always talking about machining, subtractive machining, but printing metal really is it's next generation, isn't it?
It is, and I think getting the market out there, getting put over some myths that you can just print metal is a key part of what we're going to have to do. But here,
what are some of those myths?
Well, that you can print everything, and I can print big parts, I can print great big parts, I can print finished parts, when in reality is we still have to sinter parts, so in whichever method we're printing it, we still have to sinter it in a furnace. So we still have some laws of physics to overrule.
Okay, I want to talk about this because for those, again, that don't know about 3D printing, let's talk about that process because, we're printing here, but there is a further process which you can possibly explain for us.
So here, obviously, we're on the studio. So we're kind of FDM printing. So we have a filament, we have basically a rod, which is the stainless powder, with wax and polymer. And what we're doing is we're extruding it through a hot nozzle, and we're printing it like a home FDM printer. But as we can see from the parts, they're in a sort of a semi-hard, almost wax-like status, and they're not final parts, they're not metal. There's a good metal powder there, and obviously we have to put it into a furnace, and that's what people forget. We're not magically printing metal. But obviously we take that, and then during a sinter run, we obviously debind. So during that same sinter run, we're taking away that wax and the polymer binder.
So are we saying then that that's the start of the part and that's the finish? Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're having to take into account within the software around about 20% shrinkage, because as well as you're extracting out the binder, you're also obviously melting the material, and obviously all of the balls of material are kind of getting closer together. So that's what really says it to us, is yes, we're printing, but you're right, we need a furnace to take that part into a truly final metal component. But it isn't, in most cases, going to be a final metal component. It will require an element of a small feature or something that going to print everything final. We're going to be quite accurate, 0.2, 0.3.
That was going to be my next question, actually. So the accuracy about 0.2?
About 0.2 to 0.3, depending on the size of the component. So it means you're still going to have bores that require machining. We definitely see this technology sitting alongside Matsura, where people want a end-to-end solution for almost printing the casting, final feature machining.
Okay, now 316, so this is what, in essence what we're printing here. What's the scope for the materials we can do? What can we print on this machine, Peter?
On this particular platform, we're finding it's really adaptable. So as you can see from the components, we have copper, which is quite an interesting material certainly for heat sinks and other components, because it's quite an unusual material to print with. And we've also got titanium just been launched, so you can feel the difference straight away between
what's the difference between those two that you actually have there, because the surface finish looks different?
That one's actually just had a little bit of a bead blast with some oxide. It's a cosmetic pretty blast, whereas that's straight off the printer.
Okay, now people often look at these machines as like hobbyists, don't they? Something to play with, something to. But industrially, where do they fit? Who's going to be coming to you, Peter, and going, I need one of these? I mean, I can think of some applications, but it'd be good to hear how broad it is.
I think it is going to be about as broad as it is long. There are bicycle companies that have already got the studio. We've got aerospace companies that want it to try and dip their toe into additive. They want to start somewhere, and they want to see what they can do to make final components. So, it's going to eventually be as broad as we are on the Matsura side.
It's very quiet. What about power consumption of it? I mean, I suppose you're just going to leave this running, are you? Is it efficient?
This runs on a 13 amp plug. So the printer itself is something that can sit anywhere. The way that we bound the material in the rods says it's a very friendly process. But of course, there's a furnace, and a furnace requires power. So yes, you're going to need 32 amp 3-phase to run a furnace, and it takes sometimes 2 to 3 days to put those parts through the debinding and the sintering process.
What about comparing the properties of the final product against a casting or something like that? The strengths, that's got to be a major factor.
It is, and I think it's the common myth. Once our part is sintered, it is a fully formed 98% density material. So it is a casting replacement, and it is for making parts additively that you couldn't make another way, because we can have internal ports on this one.
Redesign how you're making a part, add more strength to it by the way it's actually designed and created.
Biggest critical thing for everything on additive is changing people's mindset on designing. Even like these end effector parts where they're strong, but here we can obviously build in a structure to take some of that weight back out again. So a lot of parts don't need to be solid, but it's very easy for us to do that. So you're right, but it's all about changing people's ideology really, for saying, yeah, okay, we're going to now change we can make parts as they come, but the more people think for additive, then there's no question.
Okay, so this is metal, then from the same, if you just take a step backwards, from the same, in fact, just pick that part up there, Peter, because that's a really nice example, isn't it, from the metal side?
The one we can't bring today is the shop system, so it takes what we're doing here on the studio, but it's in a powder-based, which is a much more production-based technology, so we're spreading powder using binder jetting, and we're curing the parts into a biscuit state, and then we still sinter, still have the same contraction rates, but the smaller components are really nice, and here we can start packing 30, 40, 200, 300 parts in a small build volume, very much like we do on the HP, but we're taking the parts away from the powder and we're sintering again. But you can see why it's clearly a lovely gear knob that we'd all be proud of to have a car that it would fit to. So you can see the types of customers that are now starting to say, hang on a minute, it's time for metal to come into the company.
Absolutely fascinating. Now this particular machine is no longer metal. What's this printer?
It is strange because you're right, it's desktop metal, but here we have basically an FDM printer, but we're printing in PA6, but we can also print in PEEK and PEC. But not only can we print in those high temperature materials, we can also lay in carbon fibre tape, and we can change the direction. So yes, okay, there are chopped fibre machines, but here we're actually laying carbon fibre tape, and we can cross weave it in the part. So we take something that's inherently a small FDM part, but you've had a go with this, it's strong, so we can obviously map in where we want to put that carbon fibre tape to make a plastic part. In many cases for jigs and fixtures are stronger than aluminium. We're looking at sheet metal forming tools, so
I can think of so many applications. It is really great to see this, Peter. Now, you're opening a new additive centre in Colville, aren't you? There's an opening day for people to know about that can attend. Could you maybe just tell them before we move on to speak with Joe, who I think is ready for us?
Really fully embracing desktop metal alongside HP. We're moving into an adjacent building at Matsura, and yes, 10th, 11th, 12th of May, we're opening that facility and inviting customers in, and really doing what we're good at, which is showcasing the technologies, the workflow, the post-processing. I think it's going to be pretty much a very unique facility for the country.
Yeah. I think that the fit with this product to your Matsuura machines is brilliant. Equally has been HP, which I'm now going to go and speak to Joe about. So thank you very much for your time, Peter. Okay, so let's catch up with Joe Bellis. Now, we've interviewed Joe on a few occasions about the HP product. Joe, good to see you. Are you enjoying the show?
Yeah, brilliant. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Just been blown away by some of Peter's knowledge on the desktop metal products.
Yeah.
You're even better, aren't you?
I don't know about that. But he's the technical man.
He's the technical man.
I just face it. I front it. That's
okay,
right.
now let's talk about HP, because we've talked about metal printing there. Let's talk about it from an application perspective, because these are actually, for me, really what people need to know and see that they can achieve with a HP printer. Can you just start by explaining what HP printers are for those that don't know?
So yeah, HP printers are a polymer-based powder bed system. What makes HP system slightly different to probably the standard powder bed where you use a laser HP use printhead technology. So they're basically jetting a fusing and a detailing agent onto a powder bed, and then UV lights cure it as it goes. It's a very quick process. Part quality is very good because you're basically fully fusing the component as opposed to sintering, so it's isotropic.
Okay, can you talk to us about this? I'm going to start with this one because this is quite close to my heart. This actually, my daughter had one of these helmets when she was 1 year, 1 year of age, because she had plagioclefleli, which was a head condition, which meant she wore one of these to get the symmetry of her head correct. We paid a lot of money for it, and it took, I think, I don't know, it was about a month, the whole process of measuring the head, almost carving it. What we're saying now is this could just be printed in a matter of hours.
That's it. So this component, as you say, it's a cranial cam. Basically, traditionally it's quite a manual process to make something like this. But where HP have gone with it is basically what you can do is you can scan the head of the baby or whatever. From that, we have these generic designs as sort of in the software, and what happens is it will map the file or the scan of the child's head to this generic shape, but it's totally customizable. That's the thing. So every child is obviously different.
What about colours and things like that?
Pardon?
Colours. What about colours?
Colours. So it'll come out in a sort of grey raw state, and then we can dye it. You can paint it. You can There's multiple things. You can even electroplate it, wrap it. There's a lot of things that you can do to it afterwards if you want a certain sort of finish. It's no different to sort of billet form nylon. Yeah.
What about this? Talk to us about this then, Joe, because this is
a vent from a touring car, so BMW touring car. Basically, the customer is a touring car company, and basically one of our customers, Midlands 3D, is their technical partner. So basically, they print bespoke components for the team, and they go on the race car.
So how many would you just print one of those, or the HP you can build like in the build unit you can have a nest of them, couldn't you? So you could make several of them, leave it unmanned to run.
Well, that's the beauty of it. That's it. You can have multiple parts. You can batch produce parts, but also you could have multiple iterations of this design. So say they do a race or whatever, they could basically do some monitoring on obviously the airflow through this part. And the beauty about 3D is you can tweak a model overnight, same day, whatever you want, and basically tweak the cab model and then send to print again.
How does the HP fit with your Matsura machines, Joe? What's the relationship? Are they quite closely knitted together?
Well, they are in the sense that it's a great product, as are the Matsura products. But to be honest, when we first took it on, we thought there was going to be a bit more of a customer base within our own customer base, and what we found is most of the business has been new customers, which is great because it's got us into places that we never would have considered with the CNC stuff. But then it gets people coming through our door who have not necessarily been into Matsura to look at CNC and potentially are interested in the CNC side. So there's definitely a crossover for fixturing and that sort of thing. But it's got us into a total new sort of customer base, which has been brilliant.
And you'll be having these machines in your new Additive Centre in Colville, won't you, which people can come to. And I think it's May the 10th, isn't it, where you'll be having an open day of that new facility?
Yeah, so the open day, 10th, 11th, 12th of May, and we will be exhibiting all the additive systems that we offer as Matsura. So you've got HP, Desktop Metal, Dimension and Vision Tech. So the full range will be on show.
Good stuff. Joe, thank you very much for your time. We're going to move on now. We're going to go back to Lindsay and Joe, who are at the front of the stand, I believe, have got some very happy Matsura customers with them. Joe, thank you very much for your time.
Good to see you.
Right, brilliant. Thank you, Paul, for that. Now, it's MACH, right? There's lots of people around. In fact, look. There's so many people on the stand. Dominic kind of finishes doing a live, and now he's starting to talk to people about machines. However, whilst you were watching everybody else, we found this lovely gentleman who's a little bit nervous, Brett. Brett, can you introduce yourself? Where are you from?
Yep. So my name's Brett. I'm from a company called Bowyer Engineering, based in Andover in Hampshire.
And what is it that you're predominantly making at Bowyer?
So mainly operating in the aerospace industry, but more recently with the way things have been, we've branched out into sort of motorsport and a few other industries as well to keep ourselves going.
Well, you know what, how often we're talking about diversification and everything with products, yes, absolutely understandable. Now, what Matsuras have you got?
So we've got 2 MX850s and an MX520 as well.
And tell me more about these machines. What are they fulfilling for you and your company?
Yeah, well, obviously the Matsura brand is super accurate machines, super reliable, great service, and part of the Matsura family is kind of what we bought into. I've been using Matsuras for over 20 years at previous companies as well, so introduced them to Bowyer when I joined Bowyer Engineering about 8 years ago.
And do you measure things like spindle uptime or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And what are your figures on there? We talk about very high percentages of spindle uptime. Is that something that you use?
Well, we do a lot of small prototype work, so spindle uptime's not massive for us. It's more about getting it right first time and being super accurate. That's what we buy in the brand.
Well, that's another thing, is that accuracy as well. So what would you say that you like about your Matsuras? Have they changed your business in a way? Would you, do you feel like they're best in market, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're the best in the market. As I say, been using them for years. Machine's 8 years old and it's as accurate as the day we bought it, so that's the reason we've stayed with the Matsura brand.
And would you be looking for more Matsuras in the future, or what direction would you be looking to take the business?
Yeah, so automation would be the next one, going for some pallet loading Matsuras, which is something we've been looking at recently.
That interests me. Just really quickly, we are going to speak to the guys in just a few moments' time. You're prototyping, but you're thinking about automation, so why is this happening?
Well, now we're sort of dipping our toes in the motorsport world, and we're starting to get a little bit more medium batch work. So now we're sort of leaning towards getting a bit more automation in the factory.
And why is automation so important for you? Like, what are you finding in industry where you go, actually, automation is pretty essential?
Lights out. It's the best way to run the machines is lights out. So that's what we want to try and maximise, is some lights out machining.
Are you doing any lights out at the moment?
No, not at the minute. We haven't got any pallet loaders. It's all one man, one machine at the minute.
Really? So now it's like taking that leap, right?
Direction.
Well, that's what I mean, diversifying and changing direction. One final thing, just for anyone who's maybe watching and they're maybe in a similar position to you, mind you, might not want to encourage them to get this machine. No. What would you say to people that, if maybe they're not looking at Matsuras, why would you encourage them to do so?
Well, as I said, they're super accurate. The service is absolutely spot on, and you become part of the Matsura family. They really do look after you as a customer. You don't just buy a machine and then that's it. They're always in touch. They're always supporting. So yeah, they're a great supplier. Yeah.
I mean, you can't get much better than that. I mean, Ian Mitchell's just walked over and brought this over to me. It's the poshest hand sanitizer I've ever seen in my entire life. So yes, I totally understand that. Brett, thank you so much for coming on to the live.
No problem.
There you go, Brett. Right, okay. Just to kind of close off now, I mean, it's so good when you get customers just being willing to go on camera. Gents, how are you? Been busy?
Well, what can I say? How many customers are Matsura on this stand? Grand, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's been really good tour. And in fact, tune into our live podcast at 4:30 today. Dominic Seminario, who obviously looked at the MAM and the MX with, is going to join us on that show. And in fact, if that podcast is as good as yesterday's, we'll probably have 5 or 6 guests during the course of that 40-minute. But no, it's been really good. I'm not surprised the stand's busy, and I'm not surprised that they've done so well this week so far. I think, their kit is attractive to all kinds of companies, small to medium-sized business. What I was trying to extract from Dominic was, do people look at this machine and go, that's not for my machine shop, it's too big, it's too much money. But, he's got these machines installed in companies that they're probably not much bigger than the machine itself.
I know. I've literally been to a company where they had to take the roof off to fit the Matsura in, but they are so happy.
And there is another factor as well. To me, it's as a company owner, you need. It takes a lot of stresses and strains away from your day-to-day activities, and I think that's a big factor as well. Lots of companies these days are owner-operators, aren't they?
Yeah.
We are ourselves, and if you can take stresses away from your day-to-day duties, which these machines do, that's always a bonus.
Well, it's Joe that causes the most amount of stress.
Well, he does, doesn't he? He does, absolutely.
I thought we were a bit of stress in your life, Lindsay.
We need no stress. Right, brilliant. Thank you so much for watching. Get those comments in. We're still getting them. Thank you for getting those messages in. We will be back. What time is it? 1 o'clock, I think we're back.
1 o'clock.
Live on a different stand. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you very soon.